Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Debates. I'm Ryan, we've got Dwayne, we've got Emmanuel. Today, we're talking about basketball. Last 5 episodes have been all about football. That's in the past now. The NBA season's been happening, and just 2 weeks ago was maybe the craziest trade deadline in basketball history, including, arguably, I'm going to say it is the craziest trade in sports history, which we'll get to in just a minute. So today we're just going to go over some big deals. We'll talk about the winners of the deadline, the losers of the deadline, and then we'll take a look at the season that remains, what teams are favorites to win the championship, what teams might miss out on the playoffs that are currently there, to see how the league's looking. So we're going to just get the big trade out of the way. Luka Doncic from the Mavericks to the Lakers for Anthony Davis and some other details in that trade. But that was the headline. Luka, AD. Insane in so many levels. We all remember where we were. This was a very historic moment. So I guess we'll just share our thoughts on the trade. It's now in hindsight, 2 weeks later. Anthony Davis is hurt. Every big man on the Mavericks is hurt. So it looks like the Lakers have won the trade. But I guess we'll just give our official thoughts. Dwayne, I'll start with you.
I think I don't think it was a bad trade for either team. I think it changed what their idea was going forward. I feel like for the Lakers, we all thought this was a win now team originally, and then we turned to the Mavs and we're like, okay, give the Mavs some time. It's still Luka Doncic, But then you turn around, they trade, and you're like, okay, well, they just switched two different ideas here. Sure, are the Lakers kind of a win now team in a sense? Yeah, but at the same time, if you look at Luka's numbers, Luka is not acting like Luka at this point in time. I mean, his debut, what he had, only had 14 points. I mean, it takes a minute for people to get better, especially on a team that's new, area that's new, and then with AD getting hurt. But here's his perspective. What the Mavs are the ninth seed, and they hadn't had Luka in a minute. So with AD being there and hopefully them being healthy, I feel like for right now, for a win now situation, that's perfect for them. I see this as for what the organization wants for the Mavs, a win for the Mavs.
The Lakers obviously won the trade, right? They have Luka Doncic. They now have a future outside of LeBron. So they're no longer in the win now situation, and they now have a future with a MVP caliber player. This trade made absolutely zero sense for the Mavericks perspective. You're trading away a 25-year-old who you're quote unquote worried about his health, and you trade for Anthony Davis. You're not worried about Anthony Davis' health. Well, you should be now because he just got hurt, along with every other center on your team. But you're worried about Luka Doncic's health. Okay, buddy. Like whatever he was smoking, I want some of that because it must have been good. Also, this trade still makes no sense because he was able to get talked out of getting, I believe, Dalton Connect from the Lakers and some more first round picks. I mean, how he needs to lose his job. It's as simple as that. The Lakers won. The Mavericks are going to be struggling. They still have a future. You still got Daniel Gafford, even though he just got hurt. So you still have a future in Daniel Gafford, who's going to more than likely be a superstar in the league eventually when he gets there. But like, you basically just shot yourself in the foot.
I just, if you see what the GM said, right? He wanted defense. Defense wins championships. And I'm not saying Anthony Davis is, Anthony Davis when he won the Defensive Player of the Year. But he's still a great defender along with the great defense that you have with that lineup one with the Mavs. Now, they got injured. And AD actually was pretty good this year. And up until this point, he was pretty good and pretty consistent. So I understand why you kind of made that idea like, okay, if he wasn't consistent, I don't think this trade would have been made. But because he was consistent this year and doing pretty well, that's where I was like, okay, I do understand. And it just so happened he got injured.
Yeah, but the reason for this trade was stupid. You were scared to trade. You traded away your MVP caliber player because you're worried about his health. I don't care about his health. He can drop a 30-point triple double. I don't care.
When you
and you trade for Anthony Davis. Come on.
I'm when you look at what he said he wanted defense. Luka is a defensive liability.
But now you don't got no defense because all your centers are hurt. You just traded away your future.
He can't control that. But he can't. Do you understand that? That's an aspect of the game he cannot control.
Okay,
so
but
he's banking.
If you look at the injury history of Anthony Davis, you can definitely guess what's going to happen with them. He's injury prone. It's as simple as that.
I want you to understand though. This year, he has been consistent. I understand that previous year he's been injured a lot. I totally agree. So if this was AD a year ago, 2 years ago, I would be a little bit like, it's still a strange trade because it changes where they are. Like it changes what the organization wants. But when you look at what the GM said, we wanted defense because defense wins championships. And AD's playing consistent. Hold on. Additional piece, Max Christie was doing good on defense against some higher tier guards. So you get defense on both those spots. Keep Kyrie, who is an excellent player and who's been leading this team very well. I mean, I'm not saying, if they wanted to win in the next 5 years, this was a good trade. No, I'm saying in the next 2, yes, this is a good trade.
Okay, so let's say they stayed healthy, right? Anthony Davis is there. They're all healthy. You got that defense. You really telling me, even after the trade, you think they're going to still come out of the West? Because that's a win-now team. Anthony Davis is like 33. So that's a win-now team. You saying you still believe that the Mavericks, out of every other team in the West, can make it out?
Well, here's the thing. The other teams in the West had to bat each other out first. I feel like this is a Western Conference championship team. I feel like they at least can get there when healthy.
100. Well, they were an NBA Finals team with Luka Doncic.
Exactly. You just traded away your offensive heavy guard.
Right. But look at the West now. They don't have that luxury.
I think my first impression after I was able to think about it a little bit, like the day after, I thought that even without Luka, I thought the Mavericks won for this year, but I thought Lakers won long term because you have Luka, you can extend him easily. Now you've got your guy post LeBron, right? And that's your next phase. Mavericks were still in a good position. Bringing in AD and Kyrie, that's a nasty duo that we were all excited to watch, ignoring the Luka side of it. Then karma strikes. But as Dwayne said, it's not something the Mavericks can control. And I understand the reasons that you've laid out, Dwayne and Emmanuel, both sides. And we've seen superstars get traded from their teams. Usually when the teams are ending, their window's closing, get them out there, entering a rebuild. But the Mavericks, they were just in the NBA Finals. Okay, great run. They took down the Timberwolves, who were looking unstoppable. Didn't they take down OKC, or was that the Timberwolves?
They took down OKC.
They took down OKC. The only reason they lost is because they ran into the Celtics, who were maybe one of the best teams this decade. That's a historically good team. No one was beating the Celtics last year. And I understand they're not at that level this year. Luka was hurt a little bit. And we said like 9th seed. They're clearly not the team they were last year. But all you got to do is get in the playoffs. We see what this team does. We saw what Luka Kyrie does in the playoffs. And then also, like, I understand getting the defense side. Anthony Davis, great defense. Luka, not known for defense. But you do not trade your franchise. I don't care what reasons you have. Because Luka Doncic is a top 5 player in the league. And when it's all said and done, he's one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. This guy averages 30 points a game. Those types of scorers don't just come. There's only ever like 4 or 5 30-point scorers in the league. And you're lucky if you have one of them. And they had an opportunity to extend him, but they were scared to give him the money. You're not scared to give a guy Luka Doncic. You give him whatever he asks for. Because even if there isn't a defensive factor, he plays 30-plus minutes a game, scores 30-point triple-doubles on the regular. The reasons make sense, but not for Luka Doncic. I just feel like you don't trade him under any circumstances unless they were entering a rebuild and the window was closed, get him out of there, get something in return. But they stayed competitive by getting Anthony Davis, and now they have to succeed. I feel like they have to win a championship in the next 3 years with Anthony Davis, or it's forever the worst trade of all time. All right, so let's talk about the rest of the trades that went down. That sparked it, that kicked it off. Everyone was freaking out, and then the rest of the trades happened. So I want to go over, in our opinions, were some winners and some losers of the trade deadline. So Mano, I'm going to start with you. What teams do you think were winners this deadline?
I got a couple here. I got the Bucks getting rid of an older and injury-prone Chris Middleton while receiving Kyle Kuzma, who's been pretty good for the team. Obviously, the fans definitely miss Chris Middleton. I love Chris Middleton and hurt to see him go. That happened, but I got the Pelicans as well. Though they lose a talented player in Brandon Ingram, they get draft compensation and more than likely might be forced into a rebuild as Zion Williamson simply isn't the face of the franchise. So I believe they're preparing for the rebuild, and getting rid of Brandon Ingram and getting some compensation back is great. And the Wizards. I think the Wizards also got it. Simply, they got a first round pick from the Grizzlies, which I think it was a 2026 first round pick, depending on what the Grizzlies do in the offseason with Ja Morant. And I also have either the Warriors. I have two teams here in the trade. I think this is the even trade split, Warriors and the Heat. Big conflicted about this one because the Warriors do get Jimmy Butler, but they are paying him $50 million for 2 years. However, they may still be considered winners because this may be the very thing that gets the team over the hump. And I think Heat also win as they get rid of an unhappy camper with Jimmy Butler and get Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and a first-round pick for the Warriors this year, who are currently the 10th seed in the West.
I have the Spurs. I feel like the future in Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox is immaculate, with also that team's already young talent there with Vassell and Castle. Bucks, yet again, I agree, getting rid of older Chris Middleton, bringing in Kyle Kuzma, who has actually been playing a lot better than he was on the Wizards, which is very surprising to me. I thought he would be the same Kyle Kuzma. This is going to be interesting because I had a deep dive on this, but I think again I agree with the Warriors in Miami. I feel like that was a great trade for both teams, but for the Warriors, I think it's better because what the Warriors lacked was another vet that had the IQ. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is still young and still is trying to learn his game. That wasn't enough for them to look a little better. If you saw them play maybe last night or 2 nights ago with the Rockets, that team just looks better because IQ-wise, Jimmy Butler is very smart what to do without the ball, on screens. He's just a much more experienced older player. And then not only that, you have playoff Steph Curry and playoff Jimmy Butler potentially. And that is a scary duo to see. So I feel like for them, that was huge. I think for Miami, it's not bad because they need to get something out of it. And I think Andrew Wiggins is a great person to get out of that. But it doesn't help them necessarily now. Give some time for your players to develop. See how Andrew Wiggins could be a number one option, number two option. Bam is not a number one option because Bam is just more defensive orientated. But then when you look at the offensive side with Tyler Hero, and then you have Andrew Wiggins, both of those could easily be number one options on any given night. Good shooters, good finishers. I think it was a great for both teams, but I also think it's more or less better for the Warriors at this current moment.
Yeah, I had 3 teams that I wrote down. Kind of obvious answers. Lakers, even without getting Mark Williams, which fell through. I think if they got that, they win the whole thing because you get a young big, not AD level, but could be long run working with Luka and LeBron. Even with that trade falling through, I still think you got Luka Doncic, for 1 first rounder. So that's a win. The Spurs, again, this is in hindsight, even with the Wembanyama news that he's out for the season. 2 reasons. Even though now you're only going to get 1 season of Fox and Wemby instead of 2 seasons, at least unless they re-sign him. You at least have him for next year. And now Fox can kind of mesh with these guys without Wembanyama, and then you bring him into the picture hopefully next year. But they also were able to keep their 3 first-round picks the next 3 seasons, all owned by the Hawks. They are on a downward trajectory. And so those first-round picks over the next 3 years could be very good picks for a team that's already got a good young core. And the Cavaliers, best team in the league, best offense in the league, and they got better because they added DeAndre Hunter, which I think kind of flew under the radar there. That was a really good trade. He's a great player, career almost 15 points a game, shoots 37% from 3, And he's got 3 years on his contract left. He signed a 4-year extension with the Hawks last year. So they have him for this year and the next 2 years. So they just deepen that offense. They want to be the title favorites, and they could get it done this year. All right, so on the opposite end, the losers.
One team that really stands out to me is the Kings. I feel like they traded the wrong person. I feel like they definitely needed to trade DeMar. I love DeMar, and I think DeMar has such a great game, and I love how he plays. I love his attitude towards the game. But unfortunately, what they needed was another reliable catch and shoot. Keegan Murray is having not a great year. DeMar's not a good catch and shoot three-point shooter. He just isn't. I feel like they needed to make a move there. I value Fox more than I valued DeMar. I don't know if that really was especially to the team they gave him to. If they just said, okay, Wizards, here you go. If they said, okay, even Pistons, it's another conference, but you just gave potentially top 5 player in the future, a great fast guard on an already good young team. To me, that makes no sense. For them, I don't like that trade. I like Zach Lavine, but what this reminds me of is when they were on the Bulls. It didn't work out at all. I remember watching a few years ago the Bucks and the Bulls series. That was one of the worst brands of basketball I've ever watched because it was just a whole bunch of ISO ball. I'm trying to show some grace to the Kings, but they also just fired their head coach who was doing great for them for years. So now you have someone else that it's just not a smart mindset move. I also think Fox wasn't too happy, and they weren't too happy that Fox wasn't too happy, and they let him go. I think that's part of it.
I'm going to come back to that later for you, sir. I'm coming back to that later. But I'm going to focus on who's the losers. I'm just going to throw it out there. It was the Suns. The Suns are losers, right? They're a extremely talented field team, and they're not even in the play-in right now. I mean, how are you not even in the play-in with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal? What are you guys doing? Please tell me what you guys are doing. What's your plan going on here? And you try to ship off Kevin Durant. Not going to go too much detail with that, but you try to ship him off. You show how desperate you are, and nobody trades him. Kevin Durant doesn't want him to be traded. Now you're forced to show your hand during this offseason because Kevin Durant now knows you want him gone. So now you're going to get a lot less if you just played your hand a little better. But clearly not everybody can think well on that Suns front office. And I have, though marginally, the Sixers as well. We're stuck with Paul George here. Somebody please help me. I'm blinking twice. We need help. We're being held hostage here. Him and Joel Embiid, the injury duo, oh my goodness. And the worst thing is, Joel Embiid has a knee injury that needs surgery. And we aren't in the play-in. And the team continues to let him play, knowing darn well he needs knee surgery. Why are we going to continue let him to play, knowing that he'll get injured again and probably with something different, and we're letting him play, and we're not even in contention for anything? It doesn't make sense. What we need to do is shut it down. I don't care how much fines he stacks up by not playing. We need to shut it down and let both of them sit on the bench and let the young guys develop, like Jared Butler, Quentin Grimes, or like all these other guys, like Adam Bona. Let these guys develop, give them a chance, but we need to shut it down. And I have to see Joel Embiid foul bait one more time, I'm going to lose.
Hold on. There's no way you're addressing Joel Embiid when Shea is foul baiting. Anyways.
No. Have you seen the Celtics highlights? Have we seen the Celtics highlights?
No.
Have we seen the Celtics game?
I don't want to hear it. How many free throws did Shea shoot a game?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Anyway,
but he's a guard. He drives to the paint. That's where he scores.
I don't care.
It's not foul. It's not foul baiting. He plays it smartly. You can't call him a free throw merchant, bro. He's like top. He's not even top 5 in free throw.
Hold on. So when James Harden did the same thing, it wasn't foul baiting. Please. It's foul baiting. Anyways. I do have to agree with you with the Sixers. I cannot physically understand why we didn't just make a move. It didn't even have to be a obscure move. It could have just been Paul George just for some draft picks. It could have been Paul George for, I don't know, give us PJ Tucker back or something. Like, it's just, to me, we picked up Paul George, right? Thinking, hey, man, we don't need you to go absolutely ham. All we need you to do is be a good catch and shoot. That's what we need from you. Because we got Maxey, who's a great driver. We got Embiid, who's a good driving kick. Same thing with, like, we have paint presence already. We have good paint presence. But then you turn, and not only can he not even dribble for anything, he can't shoot for anything. And to me, that's why we picked you up. We did not pick you up to be Podcast P. We picked you up to be PG-8. You even disgraced Kobe wearing that 8. Like, I don't even want to hear it. Oh, I wanted to pick 8 because, no, we don't want to hear that right now. I'm a Paul George fan. I love Paul George. So when we got Paul George, I was so excited. I was like, come on, if this is the time for us to do something, it would be now. My God, I would love it. But now I have to sit here and look at him do podcasts. He has more podcasts than points. What are we doing? And then wants to go on vacation, show pictures. Are you serious? Are you serious? Like, to me, that pisses me off. Not only as a Sixers fan, but as a Paul George fan and as a basketball fan. Aside from that, I have to agree with you with the Suns. The Suns have, in quotes, a star-studded lineup and suck. Now, I think this is a KD issue. If we look at it, Nets didn't do too well. 2 years on the Warriors, he only gets 1. OKC, he doesn't get it. It's not that KD is a bad player. Maybe the play style that he's looking for, he only found on the Warriors. The Warriors had a lot of freedom in their basketball, and that's not the amount of freedom he's finding. Either he's finding the freedom because he's carrying, or he doesn't just find the freedom. I think the brand of basketball he's looking for, and I'm not trying to say anything as, for the Warriors, but was on that Warriors team. It's just, it was a lot easier for him. Whereas now you're going to other teams trying to create super teams and it isn't working. Like, if you think about it, teams he's been on, dominant point guard, dominant shooting guard. That's been most teams he's been on. Russell Westbrook, James Harden when he was there. Kyrie Irving, James Harden. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Now, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. That has only worked once. I think the Suns should have made a move because you said, oh, yeah, we're well welcome. And then all of a sudden now you have him. He's like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't appreciate that, which I respect. But he might have to look at himself a little differently. That's all.
I'm going to disagree about the 76ers. I'm going to tell you why. Dang.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, first of all, I don't think it's necessarily something to be mad at the Sixers that didn't trade Paul George. Tell me who's taking Paul George's contract.
Atlanta Hawks was interested in Paul.
Okay, that's true. They were interested. Now,
the Warriors were interested in Paul George.
I can't speak for if the front office listened to those offers, or if there were offers, or there was just like a couple calls. The way I've looked at this season, I was against the Paul George signing in the offseason. I thought that was a stupid idea. Turns out to be true, because it's another aging, injury-prone guy that costs too much money. We already have one of those guys. I think the way they're viewing this season, right? McCain getting hurt, that sucks. Embiid and Paul George, we knew they were going to be injury-prone. We weren't expecting McCain injury, at least. Maxey's been carrying the team. The plan was for Embiid to play however many times he's playing so that he can play the entire playoffs and we can chance. So I think, obviously, we got to make the playoffs first. But if we make the playoffs, I think they want to give it one go with this 3. If all 3 are healthy, got the load management worked, why not give it a run? Just one postseason. Why not? Heck, you got 3 talented scorers. Why not? Then I think in the offseason, hopefully, they explore. But I'm not looking at the what ifs. I'm looking at what they did this offseason, or this trade deadline. A couple minor moves, got rid of Reggie Jackson, got rid of KJ Martin. Okay, they brought in Quentin Grimes, who's young, controllable. The Reggie Jackson trade was interesting. We got 4 second-round picks, but those second-round picks are important because in the KJ Martin trade, we traded our 2027 second-round pick, which was owned by Milwaukee, and the 2031 second-round pick, which was owned by Dallas. And in the Reggie Jackson trade, we got a more favorable 2027 second, a 2028 second owned by Golden State, a more favorable 2030, and a 2030 second round pick owned by Washington. Looking long term, now we've got a buttload of second round picks. We got better second round pick for 2027. When I first saw that we got 4 seconds, I'm like, okay, they've either got another trade cooking now or in the offseason. So now if you can get rid of Paul George, you got some draft picks to work with, find another better person to add to this team or use the draft picks. So as much as I would have loved them to trade Paul George, I can't speak to if they wanted to or not, or if they considered it, but I wouldn't consider it a loss for the Sixers just because of how bad this season is going to do. And I don't think any move was going to save it.
That's why, yeah, I agree with you with that. That's why I call them marginal losers, because of those trades that they did commit there with Quentin Grimes, getting Jared Butler and those second round picks as well. But my issue still with the Sixers is before the season started, they knew about the knee surgery for Joel Embiid. Trading, hoping that they would just, focus on the rebuild, honestly. If I have to hear one more thing about the process or Daryl Morey saying this is a championship caliber team, if you squint enough, I'm going to lose it. I'm truly going to lose it. I'll burn every Sixers jersey that I have. I will burn those jerseys in the streets, and I will dance on the process's grave.
Let me put this in your brains for a second. Embiid played in the Olympics, didn't miss a practice. Coming into the season, now needs knee surgery. Why are we not even considering just letting him go? Not just releasing him, but getting something back for him. Well, who's going to want to beat if he's always in? We just saw a dude that is consistently injured in AD get traded for someone pretty good.
Anthony Davis at least played one healthy full season.
Right.
One healthy full season. Right. When's the last time we've seen Embiid play one healthy full season?
He's played one healthy. He won an MVP.
But then he missed. It wasn't one full healthy season. He was hurt through some of that season, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He barely made it into that qualification, but he made it.
Why I was about to say, isn't that when they, a couple years, the next year, they started putting the implication that you needed to play 65 games?
This is my point. Somebody's going to want to pick that up, but we're sick and tired of it. Here's the thing. Either we're going to lock in as an organization and be like, no, you got to play, bro. Or we just let him go and get some good stuff, like maybe a really high draft pick in the next 3 years. Like, we need something else than what is currently happening. I am not okay with us being a 10th seed going into the playoffs. Because guess who we're probably going to play, even if we win those play-ins? The Celtics. For us to get whooped over and over again for 4 games straight, not even to get them tired. Do you understand that makes no sense? What we should do, right? What we should do is say the next year is the year we give him one more chance, right? Rest in peace. Bro, get your surgery. Come on, get this done so we can get you to full capacity next season. Paul George, lock in. Stop with this podcast, Pete. Drop it. You need to work on your health. You need to work on getting yourself stronger. Steph Curry is much older and is still doing good. KD is much older and still doing good. LeBron, who is insane, is much older and still doing good. Lock in. Maxey, do what you've been doing. Maxey has been the only person outside from McCain we had that has been doing great. And McCain, thank you for being patient with us.
Hey, don't sell out Yabusele like that. Put some respect on Yabusele.
Yes, and thank you for reminding me. You can't tell me if we had a healthy Embiid, and a Paul George who was just averaging maybe 15, 17 maybe, we would probably be in this middle pack right at 5, right above the Bucks. This is what we need from the Sixers. We need you to rest. If you want to say, the season's pack was done, which is smart, rest and be, tell him to get that surgery. PG, just play restricted minutes so you don't get injured again from hitting the floor awkwardly. Maxey, do your best, because guess what, brother? I'd rather you get them stats than us getting wins at this point. It looks beautiful. And to the rest of the lineup, do your thing. Get better. I love what we're seeing from the younger guys and from the vets that come in. I love that.
And just one last comment on that. I too think they should explore and be what that looks like. But knowing this front office, knowing the Sixers organization, I think they're going to milk this one out until he can't play anymore. Like, they're too competitive of a front office. That's why they've gone out for Harden and then Paul George. And they want, they keep looking for superstars to win. They still are going to tell us that the process is happening. I also just think they don't want to have to admit that this was a fluke. No front office wants to do that when you have this big of a window and this type of potential. I don't see the front office doing that. If they did, that's great. And they could really make up for it big time there. But I just don't think they look at it the same way that fans do. So my losers, y'all have said it. Mavericks are the obvious. I said Mavericks fans. Prayers up for you Mavericks fans, man. I know they're Dallas fans. Screw the Cowboys, but I feel for y'all. That's just terrible. I said the Kings and the Bulls both lose. I think that even though they made a trade with each other, they're both kind of in an odd predicament. I see why the Kings traded Fox. He had one more year in his contract after this. And he was definitely going to go test the market. You probably weren't going to be able to afford him because you're paying Sabonis and DeRozan for the next at least 2 years. So I understand the idea of trying to get something for him, but I would explore maybe doing it on draft night. Let the league know that he's on the table and give them a longer period to offer some more. You could have gotten some better offers potentially. And now they're in a weird hole where they have to stay competitive. They have DeRozan and Lavine, as Dwayne said, that didn't work in Chicago. Why would it work here? And Sabonis, those three guys are being paid so much money. You got Sabonis for 3 years after this. Lavine next year plus a player option, which will probably take because he's got a big contract, and DeRozan 2 more years. So now you have to play competitive. And you fired your coach, who was the coach of the year. So now you're kind of stuck here. You're not doing good this year. So I just think they dug themselves into a deeper hole. And I think the Bulls lost because they're not fully committing to a rebuild. I'm glad they traded Lavine. They finally did that. But you still have Vukovic. You still have Lonzo Ball. You still have, Kobe White? Get rid of everybody. They're in a weird spot where, they have enough guys to somewhat stay competitive. They're the 10th seed right now. They're in the play-in. Commit to the rebuild. Get rid of everybody. Bring back a competitive team in 10 years. We'll see you then.
First of all, Kobe White and Lonzo, young players, very young players. They might be very good right now, but they're very young. Keep those guys. Now, Vucevic, I do hear you. But here's the thing with Vucevic. He's older, and they could use him in the offseason for trades. And then you get more draft capital or more young players. So that's how you use Vucevic there. Now, them being a 10 seed, it's not even because, they're competitive. It's because the teams below them just suck. Raptors, who just made a trade, 13 seed, suck. Nets, suck. Sixers, currently suck. Hornets, have LaMelo, but aren't doing that good, suck. And then the Wizards, obviously, are absolute garbage. They're not even trying to and just are. For them, that's awful.
Obviously, the most surprising trade was the Luka trade. But are there any trades when they happened or looking back on it that A, either surprised you or B, confused you?
Maybe the Pelicans giving up Brandon Ingram. I didn't see that coming. I know they're not very competitive right now. I just didn't expect them to start selling with Brandon Ingram instead of Zion or CJ McCollum. So they went with that and didn't fully commit to the rebuild.
For me, I have 3. It is Utah, who was very surprising in picking up a whole bunch of young players, which is exactly what they need and want to do. One that's caught me off guard was definitely the Kings. So the Kings were still at 10th, 11th seed. So they're still a play-in team. So that means you give away De'Aaron? I don't agree. So that caught me off guard. And then the Bulls. I didn't expect the Bulls to make a trade. I think they need to get rid of Zach LaVine. But I didn't necessarily think they would because of their track record with trying to let players go.
Yeah, I was also confused about the Ingram trade, more so the destination, going to the Raptors. I think that was a little more surprising than the fact that they're trading him, just because they're not competitive either at the moment. They're
signed him to an extension as well.
Yeah, and they signed him to an extension afterwards, which was, I guess they want to have him long-term with
Scotty.
Also on the team, Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
But you also, on that team, you have multiple young players that are coming up. You got, I think, Emmanuel quickly, who has a contract negotiation starting to come up, and RJ Barrett as well is having, I believe, contract negotiation as well. So the money situation there is now a little weird because you just paid Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes.
So that one was definitely interesting. And then the other one, the Middleton for Kuzma trade, I did not realize that Middleton was potentially being traded. I guess it kind of makes sense, and I see what they were going for with Kuzma, but I also don't. First of all, Middleton was a huge part of that championship. And I know that was a few years ago, and they're a different team now, and he's kind of gotten older. But you don't send a dude to Washington. Come on now. Show the man some respect. You don't banish him to the Wizards for all he's done to you. Also, younger, but he cannot shoot the three-point at all. That's what Middleton was. Called him Cash Middleton, okay? This guy was a sniper, and he was shooting 40% the Bucks this year. Kuzma's shooting like 27% from three. I don't know. I just feel like they could have maybe explored a different option for both Middleton and themselves. Last thing for the trades, was there a trade that flew under the radar? You'd like to give some love to the trade, a new player that didn't get a lot of attention, but he kind of fits on that team.
I got 2 Sixers trades, Quentin Grimes, and I got Jared Butler from the Washington Wizards, if I recall, because we traded him for Reggie Jackson. Though he hasn't played many games, oh my goodness, I can see a future with them, or at least for the Sixers. And then I'm sick and tired of y'all disrespecting the Kings trade. They got Zach Lavine, 3 first-rounders, 3 second-rounders, and hold on, let me finish. They got the first-round pick for this year's Spurs. First-round pick for this year? Come on.
I also have the Kings. This year, I do see them being a strong play-in team. I feel like they're going to give anybody they play into like 6 games. I eventually will lose. I don't see them going any further, but they're definitely going to give whoever they play some work. People look at that De'Aaron Fox just the same way I did, but then didn't realize, okay, yeah, it's just slide them Zach Lavine, who's next to Malik Monk, who's also next to DeMar, who's also next to Keegan Murray, who's also next to Sabonis. Like it is a good starting lineup, and though I disagree about the way they did it,
I just want to add one more thing to that. They also pick up Markelle Fultz.
That too.
Sixers,
They're throwing it out there. I love Markelle.
They're strong.
So glad somebody give him a chance.
They're very strong 10th seed starting wise. They're very strong.
Now, I want to give some love. I like the fit for Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's with the Clippers now. Got sent over there from the Hawks. Doing pretty well, the Clippers. You got Harden, Norman Powell, averaging like 25 points a game. So
been a dog. He's been a dog.
So their starting shooting guard, Chris Dunn, is averaging like 5 points a game. I feel like you got Bogdan, who's a career 14.5 points per game, career 43% from three. He hasn't started for them yet, but slide him in that rotation. It just deepens it out. I think I remember what he did at the Sixers when he was on the Hawks. Like, there's a guy that can just disrupt you. And when he's shooting, he's shooting. So I like that fit for the Clippers. I think that one kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Sorry for the PTSD. One last question I want to throw out. So there were 5 teams that didn't make a trade. Trailblazers, the Orlando Magic, the Brooklyn Nets, Denver Nuggets, and the Timberwolves. The team doesn't have to make a trade. Sometimes they should have. So hearing those 5 teams, Dwayne, is there a team that you would have loved to see make a move?
Timberwolves. They are currently a 7th team, and I feel like they should be better. I feel like they should be a top 5 team in the West. I feel like they should be better than the Clippers, better than the Lakers, and potentially better than the Rockets. I'm not trying to poo-poo on their parade, but Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle is not a good duo. Rudy Gobert may be good statistically, but nobody's scared about going up on Rudy Gobert. He's been dunked on like plenty of times. Nobody's scared of him. Julius Randle is a highly inconsistent player, and we've seen that everywhere he's been. And that's what you give Anthony Edwards. We get rid of Cat, who was your guy. You give him Julius Randle and Rudy, and then you refuse to elaborate. But that's not enough. You would hope they would do something more for Anthony Edwards. You should not be below the Clippers. You should not even be below the Lakers right now. as a team that went as far as they did in the playoffs last year, that's unacceptable.
I'm going to say none of these teams should have made a trade. I'm going to say that right now. The Blazers, they suck. The rebuilding. Keep it as they are. Nets, realistically, who are they going to give up or trade for? They have young guys that are talented. You need them for the rebuild. And the Wolves shouldn't have traded either because they really messed up trading away Cat instead of the bum Gobert, who is offensively nowhere near as good and also gets embarrassed when brought out to the perimeter, unlike some other centers. I think they shouldn't have traded because they missed their window the first time with Karl Anthony Towns. But yeah, the cap situation isn't great even after they traded away Cat, thanks to Gobert's large contract, and you bring on Julius Randle. You kind of messed up, basically had your hands tied during the trade deadline.
All right, so now let's look at the second half of the NBA season. There's about 7 weeks left in the season. We've referenced the standings quite a bit. Dwayne, who are the championship favorites in your opinion?
For the first time in a while, I can sit here and say there's multiple and a lot. So bear with me. Obviously, OKC, Celtics, Nuggets. I think Knicks. I feel like they have a strong enough lineup.
Didn't he just get embarrassed by the Cavs?
Yeah.
Not bad.
That's the Cavs.
That's the Cavs.
I'm just saying they got embarrassed, though.
Hear me when I say this. The Mavs, I still think they have, with healthy, they can do something. How many times do you really think all your bigs are going to get injured? That's like insane. So healthy, I do believe they can make a run. Cavs, obviously. This is not one of those Utah situations with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert where they're a number one seed in the season and then all of a sudden it's up. I feel like they're definitely good team. And I do see the Bucks. Can't underestimate Giannis. You cannot. And you cannot underestimate playoff Dame. And then on the low-key side, I do have the Warriors. I feel like because of what they picked up and how they're now playing with a certain pedigree, they can make a run the same way the Mavs can make a run. Among those teams, my top two currently are OKC and Celtics, obviously. Two most complete teams in the NBA right now. I know I said that with the Chargers and they got smacked, so I'm careful with the way I throw that. I feel like the Cavs are a good team and are complete in a sense, but not as to the degree of OKC and the Celtics.
I'm going to pick two teams from each conference. I have, obviously, my Thunder as number one, a young team. And I'm going to put the Nuggets, who are the third seed right now, who's on a 9-game winning streak, who are currently hot. Obviously, I'm not picking the Grizzlies. I don't think they should be acted upon as contenders, even though they're the second seed in the West. I just don't see them having a good enough roster to really pull it off. And then from the East, boring picks, but I got the Cavaliers and the Celtics. And I feel like if OKC matches up either one, I ain't going to worry about it. I'll be sleeping good tonight. Trust me, we're all fine in the NBA. Also, Dwayne, don't ever call Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a free throw merchant when he has less free throws than Joel Embiid. Don't ever say that again.
Never said. Hold on. Hold on. I never said Joel Embiid isn't a free throw merchant. I agree with that. He is. I won't deny that. But so is Shai.
Okay, but see, the difference is the play styles.
Hold on.
No, wait. Let me coach.
How many attempts does Shai get per game?
8.
8?
Yes, he drives to the paint. You're bound to get fouled.
Okay.
Right?
Hold on. Okay. How many attempts does Maxey get a game?
I have no idea.
I can tell you it's less. And Maxey does the exact same thing. Maxey's game is drive, layup, or step back 3.
5.7.
But that's also
5.7.
But see, the Sixers are also one of the teams that usually don't get that many calls besides when it comes to Embiid. But also, once again,
Wait, what did you just say?
But Sixers are one of the teams that don't get that many foul calls for them. Besides from Embiid. Like, that's what I said. Okay, I just want to flip my sentence.
But that's my point.
But see, the difference is...
Hold on. Let me explain. Because I can
my goodness.
I can see where this seems wrong. I can see where this seems wrong. Foul baiting is a skill. That is not a shot on him. That is a skill. But when we look at his statistics, obviously he's going to have a bulk of points from the free throw line. It's not. It is a skill.
Never watched the OKC game
skill?
before.
Is it not a skill?
Yeah, it's a skill for him. What Embiid does isn't
is it
a
skill in general?
Yeah, it depends how you go about it, though. What Embiid does isn't foul bait. I mean, that joint is not skillful. He just runs into them.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Disagree? Did you watch the Celtics game? Have you watched them play?
First of all, I saw the Celtics hitting 50% of their threes, and I just turned it off.
Then you missed what Embiid was doing, because that's not foul baiting. He was just running into them and then just flopping around.
I think like foul baiting people sometimes have those games. Am I correct?
No. When you're skillful, no. What Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does and what Joel Embiid does, he doesn't even try to score. The first thing he's worried about is getting the foul more than he's worried about trying to score. What Shai does is he tries to score, and if he gets the foul, then so be it. But those two are two different things. Because his prime objective is to score, and if he gets the foul, it's there. But like, he still makes a shot whether he's fouled or not.
Brother, I have seen some egregious flops by Shai. I have seen it. So we're not going to deny that this brother, there's an Oscar for acting like he's like throwing his neck back, bro. No pause. Like, he's throwing his neck back. Come on, man. Like, we can't deny that that's not there. That is part of his game. And it's not a huge indictment. That's where today's game is. Today's game where foul baiting is a thing. Chris Paul started it. Guess what? That's IQ. And I'm not knocking it. But on occasion, yes, it looks stupid. And that's why I'm saying Shai is a foul baiter.
All right. Yeah, my favorites are simple. Cavs, Celtics, Knicks out of the East. Thunder, Nuggets out of the West. I think those are the 5 teams that are the teams to beat in their respective conferences. Obviously, the Knicks are just a tier below the Cavs and Celtics, but we've seen how they play in the postseason. I think they could go for a run. All right, our final question is looking at the current top 8. I had to pick a team that's in the top 8 right now, not be in the top 8 at season's end. Who would that be? And then you can also add in the team that's not in the top 8 that will be.
This team is just slightly out of the top 8 right now. So who I'm saying is the Warriors, who are 29 and 27 with a win-loss record. They just added Jimmy Butler, and they're 3-1 with him now on the team, if I remember correctly. And he's done pretty well. I'm pretty sure he had multiple, or at least a couple of 20-plus games. So I see that you got to get over the hump here. You got to at least push into the top 8, maybe even get out of the play-in scenario with this and push into the actual playoffs, because that's how good a duo of Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry and Draymond is. I really think they're enough to push it in. And then obviously a team that's in the top 8 right now that I don't think will be there at the end of the season is definitely going to be the Chicago Bulls. They're rebuilding. They're rebuilding, and I think there are some teams underneath of them that can push them out. The Bulls are 22 and 34. Sixers are 20 and 35, and Nets are 20 and 35. If they start going on a win streak, mind you, the Bulls are on a 5-game slide, and the Sixers are on a 6-game slide right now. So whoever can break that losing streak, they might be able to get that spot and hold on to it for the rest of the season.
The Bulls aren't in the top 8, though.
Oh, my goodness.
They're not?
Miami. I'm picking Miami. Miami can't do it, bro. Miami's.
I agree with that.
I'll take them. I'll take Miami loses and the Hawks take their spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I don't think it'll be Miami. I think we're gonna see. Honestly, I think the Pacers are gonna fall off a little bit. Ooh. It's a hot take, but I feel like they're going. Like they kind of had a good hot streak in this beginning part. Halliburton is not acting like Tyrese Halliburton right now. I feel like they're going to fall off. And I think the Hawks are definitely going to rise up because they're still a pretty good team. The top 3-ish teams in both conferences are pretty strong, but the Hawks can still give you a run for your money. And then in the West, to be honest, Mavs are 8, but I feel like they are going to be higher. Obviously, I agree with Warriors. I feel like they're going to definitely get a boost. But a team I have 3. first of all, I don't think the Grizzlies are going to keep up where they're going to keep up. I don't see that happening. Unless John Morant is a reincarnation of Derrick Rose. I don't see that happening. Clippers, even though they are doing good right now, all it takes is an injury from Kawhi, who I believe just got back, or an injury from James Harden, and they're done. In which they are.
Norman Powell.
Norman Powell has been doing his thing for a long time. It's just, he's overshadowed by PG, Kawhi. But when they've been injured, he gave the Clippers like 50, like 3 times in his career. Which, I mean, that's just Norman Powell's been a dog. Yet again, the Clippers were not as great still. So I still see that happening. They might get bounced to just a play-in team. Sorry. And then the Lakers. I love LeBron. I love Luka. But am I going to sit here and say that confidently they're going to keep their spot at what, 4? Was it 4?
Right. 21.
Against, hold on. Let's put this in perspective. Lakers are going to keep their spot against the Timberwolves, the Mavs, the Warriors, and that's about it. I mean, I see the Kings being a good playing team, but that's about it. But out of those 3 teams,
the only real threat is probably the Warriors.
Are you? Hold on. First of all, even though I might have dogged the Timberwolves for not making a move, Anthony Edwards is
Anthony Edwards is a dog. I know, because they also just beat OKC. But I don't see them. I don't see the Lakers losing that many games because the Mavericks aren't really a threat right now. They literally lost all their centers, and you have Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, who's been inconsistent as crap, and the Lakers just lost a close game. And I'm pretty sure if they had AR,
who did they lose to?
Was it the Blazers? I'm pretty sure it was the Blazers.
The Hornets.
Yeah,
they lost.
Yeah,
that's right. In the doggone East.
Austin Reeves got ejected.
Mark Williams' revenge game.
The East already.
He also got dumped on. I'm pretty sure
they lost to the second worst team in the East. First of all, we got to look at that, right? We got to look at that and say that's not that good for right now. Sure, a little bit later, but LeBron's gonna be gone. But anyways, I don't see the Lakers keeping what they have. I feel like the Lakers and the Pacers are not good enough teams to be where they are. I think they're a good solid playing team, and will give the second seed a good run, but still they're gonna get smacked by the Nuggets. And if they go against OKC, smacked. So, but I don't see them being the fit for that one. I mean, all things considered, right? The Clippers and Timberwolves are only 2 games behind. Only 2. The Warriors are. The Mavs are also 2. So let's not knock that as well. That's pretty large, pretty massive. Anyways, I hate myself. And the Warriors are only 4 games behind, and they just got this additional pickup. This additional pickup with Jimmy Butler. I don't see them. I don't see them consistently winning, and then these teams consistently staying in this 2 games, 4 games bracket. I don't see that happening. The same thing with the Pacers. Pacers are 31 wins, right? So the Bucks, mind you, the Pistons, which is crazy enough, is only 1 game behind both teams. I don't see the Pacers winning that. I think the Heat might get bounced out, to be honest. I feel like they're 2 not good enough. Hawks are definitely not listed on that. What was that? 5 games behind. I don't see that happening. And yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a no-brainer. Like these teams are not going to stay in that bracket behind the Pacers and the Lakers. I just don't see that happening, especially since they're only a few games behind. So, I mean, I digress. But wait a minute.
Oh my gosh, you're done.
No.
Yeah. Cut him off.
You're done.
No.
You're done. You're done.
Cut the mic.
The 1-game winning streak. The Timberwolves are the Mavs are on 3. Like take that into consideration. Seriously, and the Warriors are on 2. That's really good, dude. Seriously, like we cannot just not that. And first of all, it's crazy. The Pistons are on a 5-game winning streak. No one's talking about.
To answer my own question, you've all said the same thing. I don't think the Lakers fall out just because Luka's not even at full strength. He's just getting started. I think they could even get higher up there. I think Warriors get in as the 8th seed. Mavericks fall out into the play-in just because they're cursed. They have karma. I want to say the Heat fall out, but I don't see any team underneath. I mean, I guess the Hawks are the best team, but like all those teams behind them suck. All right, well, that's finally it for this episode. I'm going to take a nap after this, and we'll be back at some point. We'll be talking something else. We'll figure it out. Thanks for watching, guys.